Now, if you look at chapter 16, just the composition of it, basically it has two parables. The first parable is the shrewd manager. The second parable is the rich man and lodger. Everybody knows that, right? It's a very popular. And in the middle, there is some miscellaneous few verses there that talks about the money and different things. Overall, you can say that the topic of this chapter is about money and wealth. Okay. Now, Sujay, can you just read quickly the 13 verses, because this one is a little more involving.
Okay, I'm ESV. Mine says the parable of the dishonest manager. He also said to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. And he called him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you can no longer be manager. And the manager said to himself, what shall I do, since my master is taking the management away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that when I am removed from management, people may receive me into their houses. So, summoning his master's debtors, one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. He said to him, take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, and how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. He said to him, take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal dwellings. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. If then you had not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money.
Thank you, brother. So, the very critical verse here is verse 8, right? Where it says, that is where the commending happens, 8a and 8b. So, if you break that into two cities. So, first two verses, and then it is about what he did. Let's look at what he did, right? This is steward, a manager who is supposed to manage an estate or business and act on behalf of the owner, right? But what is he doing? He did something even before this passage happened, right? What was it? He was causing loss of the goods, basically, for the manager. And then manager finds out. And then when manager finds out, he did not question the manager when allegation came. He did not justify, he did not give an excuse or anything. He simply thought, okay, now I know my job is going to go, let me think what I should do, right? There is only little window of opportunity here. And so he quickly becomes very creative and said, okay, let me make something for myself, for my future, let me secure something, right? And he goes on and repeats the same mistake. Remember, the first problem that he had was, again, related to the goods, loss of goods. What is he doing here? He is taking debtors, he called them, and he is going to reduce whatever they own to the master and reduce it, right? So, it is repeating it. Now, there are 5 things that I wanted to bring up from this passage today. The first one, everything we have is God's. I know it is hard to take, right? Because we all think, oh, this is my property, my wealth, my house. I have accomplished it. I spent nights, this is my talent. I went to great schools or something like that, right? But everything we have belongs to God. That is the first thing that we can learn. But what this manager did not realize was whatever he is working with is not his. But he started using that and laundering that money, right? So, if you look at Psalms 24:1, it says, everything we have belongs to God and we just manage it. And this is the first thing we need to know as Christians too, as believers too, that whatever we have is not ours. And when we think, oh, it's all because of me and it is my thing. So look at Deuteronomy chapter 8 and verses 17 and 18. This is how it reads. You may say to yourself, my power and strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord of your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce the wealth. Not only what you have, but your ability to produce the wealth. Sometimes if you just think about it, right, and I know I went to a place in Bangalore, NIMS I think it's called. There it is for the neurology people. You see, like people of all ages, they're physically so good, but something is wrong with their mind, something is wrong with their whole system, nervous system or whatever. So they cannot function normally, but they look so good, right? I mean, sometimes we take it for granted. We are able to go and work for day after day, month after month, and be able to do things. But it is also a gift of God. It is not because of us, right? And that is what this verse says, right? Whatever you have and the capability for you to work also is God's. So, what we can learn from this first part of the first two verses is the steward thought everything is under his control, so he is also owning it. The way he acted on it, right? Now, let's go to the second one. Sometimes unbelievers are wiser with money than Christians. I did not say that. Verse number 7. Verse number 8. Verse number 8. The first part, Sujay.
The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light.
So there are two types here, right? Sons of light and sons of the world. So sons of light are Christians, believers who have faith in the Lord, and sons of the world are non-believers, right? So what is this is commending, saying that they are more wiser, shrewd, and they have that forward thinking better than us, right? So what does that mean? It's hard to interpret, right? So take this like this. A non-believer doesn't have much future, right? According to what we believe, their future is very temporary, right? But believers, we have eternity, right? So he is telling, if non-believers with unknown future are able to so shrewdly work and plan and be motivated to do that, believers, we should be even more motivated to do, right? And that is what he is saying. In other words, he is telling, they are investing in their future, and I don't see that intent and motivation and that creativity from you in investing into your eternity. That means your godly activities, right? That is what he is trying to remind here, and something to think about too, right? I know we are all here, employees and make good money, and we all plan next year, next 5 years what we should do, 401ks. I know even some of the young people are very meticulously doing some stocks and 401ks nowadays. So it's good, but very few of us will think about, okay, let me try to support 10 missionaries this year, maybe do something for God, and let me do something for in the realm of God. No, right? And that is what it is saying. So we are meticulous, that does not mean we are not planning for our future, but the perspective here is, are you planning for the eternal future, right? And from that perspective, this first part says the people, the Gentiles are more shrewd than, right. And the first part said, the master commended the unjust steward because he has dealt shrewdly. Now, the very verse says that the steward is unjust, right? Now, there are few things that I read about this, the commentary wise. There are few different interpretations. I will tell you because this is Bible study. Now, one of them says that he was marking the price down because he wanted to forego his commission in that, and so it is not anything harmful for the master, and so master was commending him to make this sentence right. Right? That is one theory. Second theory was master has already marked it up unfairly, so he is trying to mark it down. So master is not losing, and the customer is benefited. That is the second one. And the third one is little more, where it says the actual, if you see these 13 verses, the parable ends at 8th verse, right? But there is one theory out there that says the parable actually ends at 7, and so 8th verse, when it says, it is actually Jesus talking and doing the commentary of the application part, right? So those are the three things that are out there. But actually, the majority of the opinion that I concur with is that he is not commending the whole personality of the steward here. He is only commending the shrewdness, that component of that person which is to be praised. But the rest of it, as you know, the ethical aspect and the other aspect of it is not commended. So that is the key aspect, right? Now, so we have seen two things here. Everything we have belongs to God. Sometimes unbelievers are wiser with money than Christians, right? Let's go to the third one. It says in verse 9, make friends for yourselves by unrighteous wealth. Now, this is another speed breaker for us to understand, right? Now, who is saying this? And this one is, we have to assume that it is coming from Jesus because he is the one who is, right? And so, unrighteous wealth. What is unrighteous wealth? Is he asking us to do something unrighteous and make wealth and make friends? No, right? So when I said this, it is like a righteous God would never ask you to do anything unrighteous, right? That is what the pastor told me too when I was asking for interpretation. It's like pastor asking you to go and steal. It doesn't happen, he said. So this is basically, we have to then understand that whatever unrighteous is called here, it is worldly. It is the worldly wealth. So NIV actually says it is worldly wealth, right? He said, don't think too much about that word. You simply replace it by worldly wealth, right? So whatever wealth we make is worldly wealth, right? And so make friends for yourselves with worldly wealth, that when you fail, they may receive you into an everlasting home. The one that again creates little complexity is everlasting hope, right? Now that means you are talking about eternity again, right? So there are two things we can take from this. One is spend your money and wealth and the things that you have on this earth for the purposes of the eternity. That is number one. So you may have people, maybe through your ministry or through the contributions that you made, and however directly, indirectly. So you may have friends there in the eternity, to arrange a welcome party when you go there, right? So that is one thing. That means you are contributing to the purposes of the God and godly things, and so your wealth is being used well. So your wealth that is here, you are building wealth there as well. At the same time, you have people that for fellowship because they were benefited with the help, right. That is one thing. And the second thing, another thing, interesting thing I learned was that one of the pastors also told me that, see, look, I am a believer. I honestly try to help people around me. I don't see whether they are believers or non-believers. But sometimes all of them may not accept God, so they might remain as unbelievers. But there are times when I was down, I was in need of something, I didn't ask them, but they came voluntarily. They have helped me so many times. And so this can also be applied to this particular life as well, not necessarily in the eternity, but you are honestly trying to help others because you are a believer by virtue of nature of God. And so yes, there can be a reciprocal thing from the people. They may help you in turn. Maybe when you are in need, that might come too, right. So two things we learn here, right. So make friends for yourself by unrighteous wealth, meaning whatever wealth we have, always have the God's perspective to help others, to use for the ministry, right. Then fourth one, God entrusts much to those who are faithful with little. This is in verses 10 to 12, right. So he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much, right. So success does not come overnight, right. Wealth also does not come overnight. Usually God sees us how we are managing things with the little things, with the small things, with little assignments, right. And then when God sees that you are handling it well, then he will enhance it. If you look in the Bible, n number of examples you will find, right. You have people who are doing sincerely the work that was assigned to them, right. For example, Moses, right. When Moses felt that he was all capable, young, dynamic person, God said, no, you are not ready, right. And when Moses was herding the sheep, that's when God found him. Amos was just a herder, right. Basically the one who manages takes care of the flock, and also he used to do some agricultural work. That's what he is. And God said, you go and prophesy to Israelites, right. You can see David again. David was faithfully doing shepherd job when even he was not even considered to go and meet Samuel at that point. So God chose him for a bigger role. So likewise, what it says here is that God entrusts much to those who are faithful with little. Now, the vice versa also works. If you are not faithful with the little one, then you may not be even chosen for the roles. Sometimes it's my opinion. Sometimes, God thinks, okay, this is good enough for this guy. He is not able to manage what is given to him, right. And so there is no need for you to. You all remember the last time I took parable of talents. There was one guy who had only one talent given. What did he do? He buried it. And so what happened? That was taken from him and given to the one who had more, and he was thrown into darkness, right. So it is like that. And for example, small things, right. Like if you take for example Chick-fil-A, they don't open on Sundays. That was a decision made in 1948, I heard, right. And 47, 48. So I was looking at it. I mean, if you're a businessman, on weekend is when your business runs well. But if they made a decision, conscious decision, to choose between which one, right? And so the little things, but you see, they are probably the fastest growing business chain now, right? So I think little things what we do for God, I know most of us here have experienced similar things like that in our own lives too. When we are consistent, faithful in little things, God has blessed us. There are also times when we might have overstepped and not meet the expectations, and you could see that effect also in our lives, right? So especially with the money and related to the God's giving and related things, we have to be always careful. And the next one is make God your master and money your servant. If you look at 13th verse, no servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate one and love another. Right? So this is another example for us to think about it. Right? A lot of times we see we think we can manage both, we cannot. Right? If you see in 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10, in 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 10,
Verse 10 as well.
mm-hmm.
For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs.
You see there. So love for money wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So that is pretty intense verse right there, right? It not only takes you away from God, but also gives you a lot of trouble. And you all might have heard about John D. Rockefeller, who was one of the richest person in turn of the 20th century. And he had so much anxiety about his stuff. And so he was living pretty much on, at some point in his life, on milk and crackers. He was the richest person, right? And later on, he accepts the Lord and he conforms to the, I think he attended Baptist church. He conformed to the giving patterns, and also he learned from John Wesley, that is, give all you can, earn all you can, and save all you can, right? There is, and he followed that. And then eventually you see that he has recovered, and also at the, he lived until the age of 97 years. Right? He was a shrewd businessman, but at the same time, he was able to. So that is example for making. So master, make God your master, and money your servant. That's what it should be. So use your money to serve God and not vice versa. We know sometimes, vice versa can happen with ministries and other things happening, but our focus should be serve God using the resources that we have. And so I just wanted to just give an overview on this one. So money is one critical area that we all struggle with, right? And especially that pride that we get when we are rich is something that God doesn't like. Now we all know in Daniel chapter 4, we see Nebuchadnezzar, he looks at Babylon and tells, this is what I have built for my glory. And even before he said something like that, his position was stripped, right? So we have to be extremely careful with money. And this parable simply says that two things: yes, Christians can be rich and they can earn. And number two, it says you have to be creative, motivated to invest in the kingdom of God and the related things, right? Number three, that we cannot serve two masters. So we have to be consistent in the ministry and know that we are always aligned with the purposes of God, right? And when it comes to the ministry, like it is mentioned here, being faithful in little things matters, and that is only when we are faithful in little things, then God blesses us for bigger things. So that is the summary of today's Bible study. Thank you very much.